Ever felt like you're just not getting through to the AI? You ask for something precise, and what comes back is, well, everything but precise.
Oh, absolutely. It's a common frustration, especially when you need reliable professional results, asking for a scalpel and getting a Swiss Army knife with dull blades.
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into a blueprint. It's actually a surprisingly simple framework that promises to shift your AI interactions from, let's say, frustrating guesswork to something much more like guaranteed precision.
That's the goal. We're talking about the perfect prompt framework. For professionals, for anyone relying on AI for, serious work, this is genuinely a game changer in prompt engineering. It's really an evolution. What we're going to unpack is this structure, simple on the surface, but really powerful for giving the AI deeper context and much clearer instructions. And the outcome? Better, more accurate, and really importantly, more reliable results, even for those really complex domain-specific tasks.
Okay, so that's the mission for you listening today. By the end of this, you should really understand the core parts of this perfect prompt and feel ready to actually use this framework to upgrade your own prompt templates. Imagine turning those basic templates into tools with real precision and power. The idea is by defining things clearly in these components, you create almost like prompt sliders. You get this fine-tuned control, right? Like getting a real-time preview of how your changes impact the AI's output.
Precisely. Granular control.
So let's break it down. We know simple questions often get simple, maybe unhelpful answers. The most effective prompts, the research is showing this, aren't just questions. They're well-structured requests. They balance these four essential components. So what's the big idea behind this perfect prompt? What are these core principles?
Yeah, the fundamental shift is moving from just asking the AI something to really instructing it. And it boils down to these four pillars, as we call them: context, output, format, task, and constraint stone. When you consciously include these consistently, it just fundamentally improves the quality, the reliability, the whole interaction, especially when you're tackling something tricky or specialized.
Right, okay. It feels like building something solid. And that foundation starts with context. Now, we all know context matters in human conversation, obviously. How does that map onto prompting an AI? What exactly is context here?
Well, it maps very directly, maybe even more critically for AI.
Right.
Context is all that background information. The domain data, the specific goals, the relevant details the model needs to understand before it acts. Think of it like briefing a specialist colleague. Right. You give them the necessary background before diving into the task. And for complex tasks, things with nuance or very specific domains, providing what we call high context detailed background, specific data sets, maybe user info that becomes absolutely crucial for accuracy and relevance. The source material puts it quite clearly. Adding contextual awareness and domain-specific knowledge can significantly improve relevance and accuracy. Not just general knowledge, it's targeted stuff.
Yeah, I can see that. I've definitely confused an AI by not giving it enough setup. It's like telling a chef cook dinner without saying if it's Italian or Thai, right?
Exactly. Perfect analogy.
Okay, so once the AI gets the world it's operating in, you need to tell it how to deliver the answer. That brings us to output format. This feels like one of those things that's easy to overlook that saves a ton of hassle later.
Oh, absolutely critical. Output format is basically your structural cue. You're defining exactly how the answer should look. For readability, sure, but also for workflow efficiency. It could be a table, a numbered list, maybe structured data like JSON that's super common for technical uses, or YAML for configurations, or maybe just a summary paragraph or a specific document template.
And why does that matter so much?
Well, for practical things like reports or summaries, a standard structure like a list just makes it easier to read and use, right? Less tidying up afterwards. And for technical tasks, automation, data integration. Defining strict formats like JSON or YAML isn't just helpful, it's often essential. It makes the AI's output immediately usable by other systems. It ensures the result is correct and functional right out of the gate.
Right, making it actionable immediately. Okay, next up, task, or the goal. This sounds like the obvious bit, tell it what to do, but I guess there's more to it, especially for complex stuff.
There really is. I mean, yes, the task is the core instruction, the action verb. It tells the model what to do. And that could be simple. List ideas, summarize this, explain that. But for more complex things, creative work, deep analysis, defining the task, clearly becomes paramount. You might need to break it down, be really explicit, provide detailed guidance. Think of it as giving the AI a very precise operational blueprint.
So the more complex the goal, the more detailed the task instruction needs to be. Makes sense.
Exactly.
And that brings us to the fourth piece, constraints and tone. These sound like the guardrails in the style guide, giving us that fine-tuned control. How do we define these?
Spot on. Constraints are the rules, the guidelines, maybe even safety instructions the AI absolutely must follow. Tone is about the style. Formal, casual, technical, humorous, whatever fits. This component gives you that crucial control over the final output. It ensures alignment, maybe with your brand voice, compliance rules, or just making sure it resonates with your specific audience. You can use constraints to set length limits, dictate points to include or exclude, define a specific persona or voice very tightly.
So you can dial it up or down?
Precisely. Low constraints for creative flexibility, maybe. Very high, very strict constraints for high-stakes applications where accuracy and adherence are non-negotiable. Think safety, compliance, technical specs.
That really paints a clear picture. Those four components, context, output format, task, constraint, stone, it takes a vague request and makes it a super specific directive. Now, knowing the components is great, but applying them is where the magic happens, right? The source material talks about upgrade, don't discard existing knowledge. I like that idea. How do we take common prompt templates we might already use and boost them with this framework?
Exactly, that's the practical application. This framework helps you systematically structure any prompt using these four parts. It maximizes clarity, maximizes control. The source even mentions things like built-in iteration history and notes, which highlights that this is about refining your prompts over time, too. It's a process.
Okay, let's look at some examples. How about AI creates the prompt? Originally, that might just be asking the AI, help me write a good prompt for X. How does the framework improve that?
It adds layers of precision. So for context, you define the AI's role explicitly. You are an expert prompt engineer specializing in, say, marketing copy, and who it's helping. The task becomes very clear. Draft a high-quality prompt that will enable another AI to effectively accomplish objective. Then, output format specifies exactly how you want it. Provide the drafted prompt under prompt, then a brief justification under why this works. And finally, constraints. Keep the prompt under 120 words. Use bracketed placeholders. Justification under 20 words, you see. Very structured.
Wow, yeah, that's much more specific. The example in the research was great, asking the AI to draft a prompt for creating a 5-day lesson plan on renewable energy for high school teachers. The result was a really well-structured prompt itself.
Exactly. And this structure helps avoid common pitfalls. Like, without it, the AI might give you 3 okay prompts instead of 1 great one, diluting the focus. Or skip the justification, leaving you wondering why it's supposed to be good. Or make it way too long.
Makes sense. Okay, what about another really common one? Acting as. We use this all the time to get the AI into a specific persona. Act as a role and do task. How do we enhance that?
Same principle. For context, you set the stage. You a person role. You're addressing audience about topic. Very specific. The task specifies the deliverable. Deliver a type of deliverable that meets the audience's needs. Output format defines the presentation. Present it as a numbered list or in narrative paragraphs, whatever you need. And constraints are key here. Follow these rules, specific rules, and crucially, maintain voice and knowledge consistent with the persona. That ensures authenticity.
The source had a compelling example. AI as an experienced climate scientist talking to city council about sea level rise. Task. Executive summary, 3 adaptation measures, numbered list, plain language, word limits. And the output was spot on, very concise.
Right, and without that structure, you get vague personas, like just an expert in what, or no defined format, so you get a wall of text. Or the AI ignores constraints on tone or length. It needs that clear guidance.
It's like you have to treat the AI like a very capable but very literal assistant.
That's a great way to put it, very literal.
Okay, comparative prompting. Super useful for decisions, right? Comparing options, basic prompt. Compare X and Y on criteria. How does the framework deepen this?
Again, structure, context. You are a role, financial analyst evaluating options for audience purpose. Sets the scene. Task. Provide a comparative analysis against criteria list, includes strengths, weaknesses, and a brief recommendation. Clear objective. Output format is often crucial here. Present analysis in a table. Columns. Criterion. Option 1, option 2. Then a 1-sentence recommendation below. Makes it instantly comparable. And constraints. Remain unbiased, limit to 200 words, cite data if needed, ensures objectivity and brevity.
The example was a business analyst comparing Jira and Trello for a software team. 5 criteria, cost, learning curve, etc. The output, a clear table, quick recommendation, perfect for someone busy.
Exactly. The common fails here are the AI rambling. Instead of using the table, ignoring some criteria, or letting bias creep in, the structure forces that clarity and objectivity.
Love it. Okay, one more. Fact check response. So important today. Basic prompt, fact check, claim. How does the framework make this more robust and trustworthy?
Rigor is key here. Context. You are an investigative fact checker using reputable databases, peer-reviewed studies, official stats for claims and domain. Defines the standard. Task. Determine if the claim is true, false, or unsubstantiated. Summarize evidence. Pro-con. Cite sources. Specifies the process. Output format. Again, critical for trust. Present under 3 headings. Verdict. True, false, unsubstantiated. Evidence summary under 70 words. Sources. Use APA style. Structured findings. And constraints, really important. Use at least a number of independent, credible sources. Avoid opinion pieces. Keep total length under 180 words. Set strict quality bars.
The example was checking that claim about green tea and diabetes risks 60% reduction. The AI, using the framework, correctly tagged it unsubstantiated, gave a concise summary, cited sources properly using APA, noting the real studies showed much lower figures. That's powerful.
Absolutely. And the pitfalls without this. Rely on one source, no clear verdict using unreliable blogs. The framework prevents that. It enforces a verification protocol.
These examples really drive it home. Applying this framework isn't just tweaking, it's fundamentally refining how we interact with AI. Building a system for predictable, high-quality results.
It really is. Saves time, ensures accuracy, reduces frustration.
So let's wrap this up. Moving from those, basic or maybe even ad hoc prompts to this structured 4-part framework, context, task, output format, constraint stone that really seems like a pivotal step in mastering prompt engineering. You're essentially giving the AI a clear, unambiguous blueprint every single time.
That's exactly it. You cut down the ambiguity, minimize the chances of irrelevant output, and ensure the result isn't just accurate content-wise, but it's also formatted perfectly and aligned with what you actually need professionally. So, boiling down the key takeaways from the research we looked at. 1. Structure is everything. Effective prompts use those 4 pillars: context, task, output, format, constraint, stone. 2. Context is king. Background info, defining the AI's role as these massively boost relevance and accuracy. 3. Define your deliverable. Be explicit about the format table, JSON, email, whatever. It saves so much time downstream. It's not just nice to have. 4. Set clear boundaries. Use constraints and tone to guide the AI. Style, length, content rules, keep it on track. And 5, crucially, upgrade, don't discard. Apply this framework to the templates you already use. Elevate them. Make them more powerful, more precise for pretty much any task.
Fantastic summary. So here's something for you to think about. Now that you have this blueprint for, well, perfect prompts, how are you going to re-engineer your next AI interaction? How can you use this to unlock a level of precision maybe you haven't experienced yet? What's that complex domain-specific challenge you're going to tackle first using this framework?